There are memories that are embedded in our world, stories that seem to persist across every culture and through millennia. They all speak of a place that exists just outside our maps, a world that's not above us in the stars, but deep beneath our feet. A history, they say, that isn't lost, but has been carefully preserved. And this really is the fundamental truth at the very heart of this mystery. It's a story about a boundary, a threshold that was intentionally, purposefully closed, separating our world from another that lies just beneath the surface, waiting in the silence.
So let's start there. The names change depending on the language, of course, but the description, it remains remarkably consistent. We'll begin by examining the mythology, this shared global memory of a subterranean kingdom. In the traditions of the East, for example, it's known as Shambhala, or Agartha, a realm of incredible wisdom and power. Then you have medieval Europe, which was fueled by tales of a hollow earth. The concept itself is just so ancient, it's like a persistent echo in the human imagination, which really suggests a common origin for the entire story.
And it's important to understand, these legends aren't about spirits or demons. They're actually quite specific. They describe a civilization of physical beings, and they're referred to by some of the most ancient cultures on Earth as the Inner Ones. They were said to be the original stewards of this planet, a civilization that predates our own.
According to these accounts, their retreat wasn't a choice, but a necessity. It all began with a great cataclysm, something described as a war in the heavens. The stars themselves fell out of sync. The Earth was violently reshaped. And in the aftermath, these beings, they moved inward through a gateway they had constructed. And then, the gate was sealed from the other side, preserving their world just as ours began anew.
For thousands of years, this story remained in the realm of myth. But what happens when our own technology starts to detect signals that align perfectly with these ancient stories? So now we turn from legend to data.
In the late 20th century, our instruments, the ones designed to map the Earth's crust for resources, they began to find things that just shouldn't be there. We're talking about vast empty spaces where there should be solid rock, chambers with an almost perfect geometric regularity, and from these incredible depths, inexplicable pulses of energy.
One of the most compelling accounts actually comes from a classified Soviet expedition up in the Arctic. While they were using deep Earth sonar, they detected a massive cavern far below the ice shelf, an anomaly of just immense scale. But it wasn't the size of the cavity that was the most unsettling part.
The signals coming from the object inside that cavern, well, they weren't random geological noise. They were structured, they were rhythmic, repeating at precise intervals. The report described it as mechanical, or maybe biological. A steady, repeating pulse, almost like a machine, or perhaps a colossal, sleeping heart.
This was the question that haunted the researchers. Was it machinery, or was it something alive? As they were preparing to investigate even further, the rhythmic pulses just abruptly ceased. The signal went silent, and it hasn't been detected since. It was almost as if it knew it was being watched.
And get this, just months later, a research station at the complete opposite end of the world, in Antarctica, registered a similar deep Earth structure. This encounter, however, it ended differently. It terminated in a sudden, massive burst of energy that overloaded and completely destroyed their sensitive monitoring equipment. A pattern, it seemed, was beginning to emerge, one that connected the poles.
These modern anomalies, they gain a whole new context when you view them through the lens of ancient history. Because what we find is that certain cultures didn't see the inner world as a myth at all, but as a core part of their own origin story.
Take the Hopi people of North America. They hold a tradition that their ancestors didn't migrate across the land, but that they emerged from below. They say they were led to the surface by helper beings when the world was safe for them again. So for them, you see, the inner world isn't a legend, it's their ancestral home.
And similarly, in ancient Egypt, the highest initiates of the priesthood, they underwent a kind of ritual trial. They were taken into chambers deep beneath the temples for 3 days and 3 nights. This wasn't a test of endurance. No, it was an impartation of knowledge, a direct experience with the darkness and whatever resided there.
So this raises a pretty profound question. What kind of knowledge was being shared in those subterranean chambers? Some researchers believe it wasn't a story they were told, but a frequency they experienced, a key made of sound.
Consider this idea. What if our DNA isn't just a biological blueprint, but a dormant archive of ancestral experience? This theory posits that a specific, ultra-low frequency could act as a kind of trigger, unlocking this latent memory. So the initiates weren't just being tested, they were being activated.
Now, back in the 1990s, a US Navy submarine recorded just such a frequency, an unidentifiable, ultra-low hum deep in the ocean. Officially, it was logged as an equipment malfunction, which is a convenient explanation for a sound that defied categorization. But here's the thing. This modern classified recording bears an uncanny resemblance to a sound described in the ancient Hindu text, the Rig Veda. A hum, it says, that emanates from beneath the mountains, a sound that could open the gate to the inner world.
So when we begin to synthesize all of these threads, the myths, the modern signals, the ancient rituals, a new picture starts to form. Not of some simple conspiracy, but of a legacy, one that's just waiting to be rediscovered.
Maybe the whole idea of a hollow Earth is just a primitive interpretation of a reality that's far more complex. What if our planet is layered, built like concentric shells? And what if each layer is a preserved epoch of history, a time capsule sealed away by a civilization that understood cosmic cycles far better than we do?
This is the one point of absolute agreement across all the legends. The way in was not destroyed. It was sealed. It's functional, it's protected, and it's waiting for a precise moment, a specific alignment, or maybe, just maybe, the correct frequency to be opened once again.
The stories also suggest that the inhabitants of this inner world didn't die out. Instead, they entered a state of suspended animation, a deep stasis, and they're waiting for a cosmic trigger, a signal from the very same star system that once brought war to our world to signal that the surface is finally ready. And this leads to a really profound speculation. Some researchers believe that this stellar signal, it's already been received, that the recent increase in these deep Earth anomalies, the rhythmic pulses, the energy bursts, that these are not random events. They're signs of a system that is beginning to power on.
So we're left to consider that maybe our most enduring myths aren't works of fiction at all. They might be a form of cultural memory, a deeply encoded history of a world that was never truly lost, just hidden from view, shielded from the cycles of destruction that sweep across the surface.
The final question, then, isn't whether this inner world exists, but maybe why it might choose to reveal itself now. If a great intelligence is indeed stirring in the deep, we have to ask ourselves, what is it waiting for? And are we prepared for the answer?